Going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome on in. It's 1TS Daily live right here at One True Sport. How's it going? I'm Zack Heydorn. I am the host of the show from Brass Ring Media and from Sports Illustrated. It's Tuesday, so I am on the road, and you can see in the background there some tall buildings here in Chicago. Some tall buildings in Chicago. I'm downtown today, but still thinking about last night's episode of Monday Night Raw, and we're going to get into all of that during the show today with the time that we have here. If you're watching on YouTube, hello, and thank you so much for doing so. If you're checking us out on Twitter X, thanks so much for tuning in. If you'd be willing to, it would be a big deal and a big help if you hit like on the video. Just a best way to help out the show, help get the show in front of new eyes and new people, and make sure that we've are reaching new audiences. So if you're willing to do that and you are liking what you're hearing, please jump on in and hit like. It helps us out big time. This is 1TS Daily. We're live every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, with this show to talk the day in pro wrestling, whether that's news or whether that's show results or whether that's some type of in-depth analysis on something that's happened. Either way, that's what we do here on the program. And we love talking to you. You are the best part of the show. I promise you that. And so I do have the live chat open. We got some people filing in there right now if you want to get in on the conversation. I also have super chats enabled. If you're able to make a super chat and contribute to One True Sport and contribute to the show, I certainly would appreciate that. And I thank you in advance. Any contribution amount helps. So if you just want to say, hey, talk about this, or stop ranting about that, or I've got a rant of my own, whatever it is. If you want to make sure that it's read, drop it in the super chats, and I'll make sure to get to all those by the time we are done with the show today. If you do just want to hang out in the live chat, that's great too. And, I'll get to as many of those as I can throughout the show. Eddie's already in the chat here, and he says, good morning. What's up, Eddie? I see your other chats there. We're going to definitely get to those here in a minute. But the plan for the show today is we're going to talk last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. We'll spend a lot of time talking about the big New Day angle. We'll also talk CM Punk, the return of Drew McIntyre, and then we'll preview tonight's episode of NXT as well. Cool. Boss is in there and says it's a new day. Yeah, listen, it certainly is. And that is, I think, the big takeaway and the big, highlight of what I thought was a home run episode of Monday Night Raw last night. I mean, look, they had, it wasn't a home run from a match perspective where you had this big time match and, it was a tremendous match. It wasn't a home run from that perspective, but from the perspective of you have a lot of logs on the fire now. I mean, look what they did. I mean, they planted seeds for Seth Rollins and Punk again. They've planted seeds for Seth and Sammy to continue their feud. Drew McIntyre comes back, attacks Sammy. You have a direction there. Gunther is kind of up in the air. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. Where's he going? Of course, you've got all the New Day stuff that just developed. So there's a lot of directions that they can go. And I think what's most important for WWE is they're at full strength. They're at full strength right now from the perspective of they've got all their talent ready and returned and ready to go for January 6th when they debut and premiere on Netflix. And so that's huge. That's a huge undertaking for them, or a huge accomplishment for them, to get everybody back and everybody feeling fresh. And that's the case. That's exactly what the situation is. So you gotta think that they are that they're loving that reality. Okay, but let's talk about the New Day. So we had the big celebration. That's what was promoted for the week. A 10-year anniversary celebration for the New Day. 10 years of the New Day in WWE. And this comes on the heels of the big dust-up that Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston had last week on the show. Big argument, said some terrible things to one another, and now they're supposed to gather for their celebration this week. I I like the presentation of just this celebration in general. I thought they did a nice job with like kind of the video package, kind of highlighting the New Day's 10 years. They hit all the right notes there, but then they also showed, Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, each of them kind of arriving separately. They're not together. They're just, on their own. They're going to come out here and do this, and then we go from there. So I liked all that. And then you got actually into the storyline itself, and so you had Woods and Kingston come out there, no Big E, and they talk about, first of all, they thanked everybody, which was good, and then they said they had an announcement that they wanted to make, and that's what brought out Big E. And Big E comes out there and he goes, "You guys can't end," because presumably that's what Xavier Woods was getting at, that they decided that they were gonna kind of go their separate ways. Big E says, "No, no, no. Don't do this. I will be your manager, and I'm going to be your manager. I'm going to remind you guys. I'm going to help you be reminded of the fact that you're as great as you are." And this suggestion sends Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods off the deep end. And basically, Kofi and Xavier, they turn heel. They turn heel on Big E. They run Big E down. They question Big E's loyalty. They say, "Where were you?" They said, "So you had neck surgery. So what? You left us alone. You left us hanging, and get out of our ring." I'm paraphrasing, of course. And then they shake hands at the end as the audience, vociferously boos. And that, in a nutshell, that was the segment. So there's a lot there. There's a lot there. I really liked what they did for a couple different reasons. Number one, you haven't seen Big E. Yes, you've seen him on pre-shows and post-shows and like different appearances and stuff like that, but you haven't seen the Big E character on the wrestling show in a long time, and since he injured his neck. And I think it was so smart of them to wait on that Big E appearance until you had something really, really important. And this was that. I mean, Kofi and Xavier turned heel on Big E. So they brought Big E back to do the turn, to facilitate the turn. Big E was tremendous. I mean, you just look at his eyes if you watch the segment back. I watched it back this morning. It was just like a sadness that he's able to portray. And it's really effective in kind of driving home that, hey, these are bad guys now, right? So I really like the use of Big E, and Big E was excellent. I like the fact that Kofi and Xavier kind of were able to come together on their hatred for, or not hatred, but I guess disdain and frustration with Big E. Like I totally bought that as a storyline. I totally bought that as, where, hey, you're in the ring, you're about to, make this announcement, and then you just have this other person come in and go, "Hey, I'm going to fix everything." It's like, I could see where there would be frustration there on the part of Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston simultaneously, and using that frustration to come together again. It made sense to me. And so I thought that was a thumbs up way to go about getting them to turn heel. I also like this direction most for Big E and Xavier Woods. We talked about this yesterday when we previewed Raw, and the notion was, well, what do you do next with Xavier Woods or Kofi Kingston? Because neither of them at this point in time are going to be, top singles acts. You're not going to put the titles on them. It's just not going to happen, right? So what do you do with them next? Like, it seemed to me like you do this feud and then whatever happens, happens. That was my argument. Like, you just make this feud between the two of them the best it could be, and then you like whatever happens after that happens. Like, either maybe they just disappear forever. I don't know. But the most important thing was the two of them feuding. Well, now they're in a different position. Like, I think now you can have, like, you could just have that tag team, Kofi and Xavier, like, go on a run of runs. Like, I would have them now beat everybody, win the tag titles again, and just go on this like vicious heel run, maybe the Usos get back together and you have a WrestleMania match between the two. And then eventually you could still do Kofi versus Xavier Woods. Like Kofi eventually sees the light and sees the error of his ways and fights back against Xavier Woods. And then you do that singles match. I mean, it's now that you've seen the direction that they're going, there's so many different roads that they can travel down. And this was excellent. Now, the one thing I'll say, the one negative I'll say was that they kind of added a swerve into this for the sake of a swerve. Like, I think the segment would have worked better if Big E just would have been out there with them. And they start thanking everybody, and then they turn their attention to Big E rather than, okay, we're going to tease the fact that we're going to like split up and then, hope that Big E comes out so that we can turn on him. Like that was just all little too perfect, if you ask me. So it's a small thing. It's a small thing. And I'm sure you're hearing some police sirens out there. Not sure what's going on out in downtown Chicago today, but that's like the second one that has come by out there. So hopefully everything's okay. Anyway, I could have done without the swerve. I think you could have done this exact angle without the swerve and just do the angle. And generally, I just think that you don't want to do swerves in wrestling just to do swerves. Don't do it. Don't do it that way. just do your angle, and that's that. You don't need to surprise everybody. This would have surprised everybody in and of itself. So we need to get rid of swerve culture in pro wrestling. Like most of the time, the swerves are too contrived, and I think this was, and it was saved by the fact that Big E, Xavier Woods, and Kofi Kingston were so tremendous during this segment. So I'm very excited to see what they do here moving forward, and I thought it was a very, very good payoff to the big 10-year anniversary celebration segment. Let's go to the live chat here and see what everybody's talking about. Eddie says here, we got swerved by the New Day. Loved it. All right, Eddie, you're gonna push back on me like that? No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah. I mean, look, I said it was a small thing, but I loved it too. I really did. Let's see. The boss says here, finally, a real New Day heel turn. Andrew H is in the chat. Goes, Big E was the special sauce of the New Day. Won't be ever the same without him. Best play they could have made. Yeah, that I agree with. Like, this gives them the most to work with moving forward, and it keeps Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston relevant for longer. And that's. I didn't forecast that, but it's a smart play. It's a smart play. The boss says, if Odyssey wasn't let go, would he have been the Big E replacement with the story? Also, New Day now needs muscle with the new attitude, etc. It's a good place for Omos to fit in. Woods as his mouthpiece. That's an interesting thought, boss. I don't think Odyssey Jones was the replacement for Big E. Like, I mean, I think he could have factored in to whatever to a different type of story. Like, I think Odyssey Jones, when he was involved in this, they had a different endpoint than where they ended last night. I mean, I just think that, there's only one guy who could have pulled off yesterday, and that's Big E. Like, he's the only guy that makes that segment click the way they wanted it to. And so Odyssey Jones, yes, he was involved, and if he would have stayed involved, I just think that things would have ended in a different position. Andrew H says, highest crime rate in the country, 10 years running. Yeah, it's not great out here, but it's also not as bad as some outlets will make you think either. I will say that, but you're right. We could do better. Could do better, Andrew H, for sure. All right, so lots to get to on that front in the coming days, in the coming weeks. Where do they go? It doesn't appear that Big E is close to a return to the ring. So, you got to wonder how he factors in, or if he factors in moving forward. And will there be another team that steps up? to take on, the New Day. Like we'll have to see, but this when I look at all the different scenarios, this was the strongest one that I think I could have come up with, and I didn't even come up with it. Like in my head, this was, a simple. All right, Xavier Woods turns heel on Kofi Kingston, and boom, that's it. But I think this is better. I think it gives the storyline more juice. I think it gives it longer legs, and I think it could very well be more entertaining. When it's all said and done. All right, the other major angle on the show was, well, two others actually, but the first was CM Punk. He started the show and pretty much declared, hey, I'm shooting after the WrestleMania main event, and I'm either going to get there by winning the Royal Rumble or I'm going to get there by winning the Elimination Chamber. And then you had another Seth Rollins and CM Punk altercation, confrontation, and things got physical for the first time. Seth Rollins pushed Punk down. They kind of brawled for a hot second, and then Jey Uso and Sami Zayn split things up. So I thought that this opening of the show was fantastic. And if not for the New Day thing, this would have been the best segment on the show. First of all, you had the Seth and Punk stuff. And those two, man, I don't know. They either very much hate each other in real life, or they have tremendous chemistry, and that chemistry allows them to generate these just really tense segments with one another because they're so compelling, because they are so tense and so dramatic. So that it's just a really good feud that WWE has had going here for over a year now. The question is, when do they pay that feud off? I can see a situation, because they got physical this past week, or yesterday. I could see a situation where maybe they do that match on Netflix, on the Netflix premiere. Seth Rollins versus CM Punk 1. You have a rematch to go to if you want to do that at WrestleMania or something to that end, but that's a pretty big match for that show, and they need big matches for that show, period. And so I wonder if that's what's in the cards here. But then to have that segment intertwine with, the Rollins-Roman rivalry, and then to have the Rollins-Punk stuff intertwine into Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins, which intertwined into the Roman storyline. It's just really compelling stuff. It makes for a very fresh product. And I think what you're seeing here is, the more that WWE intertwines these stories, the more stuff matters, and it matters in different ways. Like, so now it's not just, Sammy's back in the bloodline, but Sammy's in the bloodline and he's defending his return to the bloodline in a different feud because that person has issues with the bloodline, right? So it's that kind of stuff that I think is really compelling. And so I liked what they did in that regard, like in tying all of that stuff together. It's nice because not everything lives in like different silos. Like, it is all interconnected, and I think that makes for a really fun viewing experience. You don't need to do that with everything, and I don't think you should. I think you should leave that type of interconnectivity to the big angles, the big storylines, the big stars, right? And you don't have to have it saturate your entire show. But when you deploy that kind of thing in the right way, I think it makes for a very compelling show, and characters that are asked to do different things and therefore make the audience feel different ways, and that's really cool too. So I love that interaction to start the show. Punk and Seth, to me, again, they're going to greenlight this maybe earlier than we thought. And I don't know. I mean, like, do you do Punk and Roman at WrestleMania? Like, is that what they're angling for now? I mean, we saw a lot of Punk Roman stuff. So is this, you get Punk and Seth out of the way, and then you have a clean lane to Punk and Roman, at WrestleMania? I don't know. Or, do you just save it, and can you do Seth and Punk at WrestleMania? And is that hot enough to be a main event? We'll see. But really good night for them, and a good night for Sami Zayn as well. And then you have Drew McIntyre make his return to the company. He attacks Sami Zayn at the end of the show. Presumably, he was the guy that also took out Jey Uso during the show. I think they didn't outright say that, but I think that's exactly what they were going for. So something to watch with Drew. Drew Sami, that's a perfect feud for Drew to have and for Sami to have. At this point in time, like that fits. Drew's going to be the heel. Sami's going to be the babyface. You go from there. They're going to have some really great matches. So I'm thumbs up on that. I think it's a top notch way to bring Drew back. And like I said, you've got a full slate of stars ready for Netflix. Now, the one negative of the show. What the heck's going on with Gunther? Are we like what? Like I don't. Why? Why are we doing this with him? I mean, Eddie, you say here, I think the fans have organically turned Gunther face. I have to disagree with you on that, man. Like, I don't see what Gunther has done that's been babyface like, or why fans would even consider liking him at this point in time. I mean, I don't see it. I don't think there's that groundswell of momentum there. Thanks, Eddie, for a babyface turd at this point in time. So you don't have that. Plus, what you do have is a bunch of matches for Gunther that he still needs to have as a heel. I mean, John Cena's coming back, right? Like, that's a huge match. You haven't done Roman Reigns yet. You haven't done a match with Gunther and CM Punk yet, right? Like, you have, I mean, Braun Breaker is a guy that I think could benefit greatly for working with heel Gunther. Like, you have all this on the table, and you're kind of like watering down his chances to get heat when you put him in there against like Dominic Mysterio. So it's like, I just don't know like what's going on with this Gunther character at this point. It's a little all over the place. And he's too important of a star to like be treated that way, in my opinion. Like, he's got to be more focused. He's got to have more focused booking with specific direction. Like, he's got to have it. Look at this. Another one. Another ambulance. What is happening? Oh, Chicago, what's happening with you? I can't really see out the window. So yeah, like, I think they just need to button that up. Get him aligned one way or the other. I mean, and it should be heel. But if you're going to turn him babyface, turn him babyface. Look, he's one of your top guys. People should know how to feel about him. And I think they still do. I think they still, don't like him and think of him as a heel, but that's getting muddy on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis anyway. So I didn't like that. I did not like that on the show. I think WWE's got to get that buttoned up and taken care of. Let's see. Eddie says here, Gunther's been getting a lot of cheers. He's verbally smacking Ludwig around, and Dom was there to set up Balor versus Gunther. Yeah, that's the other thing, Eddie. Like, yes, that's why he was there. But it's like, wait, like Balor and Gunther, babyface or heel versus heel? Like, how does this help Gunther try to get heat as a top heel on the show? Like, to me, it just waters down that opportunity, and ordinarily you wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want that. So something's afoot. And maybe it'll play out in a way that makes absolutely perfect sense. We'll see. We will see. Thanks, Eddie. All right, that's Raw. Let's preview NXT here before we get off the air. Tonight on NXT, Eric Bischoff is going to be on the show. X-Pac is also going to be on the show. So my guess is this will have to do with the Iron Survivor Challenge matches, but we don't know exactly what they're going to be there for, but that's my guess. But there you go. Bischoff and X-Pac on the show tonight. We also have 2 last chance qualifying matches for the Iron Survivor Challenge. On the men's side, it's Eddie Thorpe versus Lexis King versus Axiom versus Cedric Alexander. The winner gets a shot, or the winner qualifies for Iron Survivor Challenge at NXT Deadline. And then on the women's side, we've got Jada Parker versus Ren Sinclair versus Cora Jade versus Kalani Jordan. They also will compete in the last chance qualifying match, with the winner going to the women's Iron Survivor Challenge match at NXT Deadline. Tonight, there's also a battle royal for a shot at the NXT Tag Team Championships at NXT Deadline. So, Yeah, I mean the Bischoff stuff's interesting, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of over the Bischoff thing. I don't know. It's just he's out there with his opinions, and yes, good for him. He's going to get a paycheck, and same thing with X Pac. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised about this, but I'm not expecting too much. As far as the last chance matches go, um, look, uh, Kalani Jordan is going to get every chance in the book and every opportunity on the book. It's clear they're very high on her, so I look for her to win this match and get into the Iron Survivor Challenge. On the men's side, I'd really like to see Eddie Thorpe get a shot here. I think he's a really good talent. I think he's an up and coming guy. I think he hasn't had a chance in a while to really show what he can do or get kind of consistent booking behind him. But you started to see him, on TV a little bit more. So I hope that they go with him here. I think Lexus King, okay, Axiom, Nathan Frazier's already in the match, so you could play that card and have Axiom join Frazier in there. So there's a beef between the two of them. But Eddie Thorpe is still the direction that I'm going on this one. We will review NXT tomorrow right here on 1TS Daily. And then on Friday, we will preview NXT Deadline. So mark your calendars. Be here on Friday to preview the big NXT PLE over the weekend. Cool? Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody who tuned in and listened. I appreciate it. If you want to hear more from me, you can check out all of our work at Brass Ring Media. Just search Brass Ring Media on YouTube. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are live all throughout the week, including tonight. The Brass Ring Media podcast is live on YouTube. You can check that out. So head over there, subscribe. I think it's totally free to do it, and I think you'll enjoy it. You can also check out all of our written work on our Substack newsletter that goes out every day with different editorial pieces and features. So subscribe there, totally free as well. Brass Ring Media on Substack. Thank you all so much once again. Have a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday, and we'll talk to you guys real soon. I'm Zack Heydorn. This is 1TS Daily on One True Sport. We'll see you later.